Wonderhussy here, standing in the middle of California Highway 127, aka one of the loneliest desert highways you could ever hope to see, that cuts right through the middle of nowhere. Although, come to find out, it's not actually nowhere. Believe it or not, we are actually somewhere at a place called Evelyn. That's right, according to Google Maps, this is a place called Evelyn. And even though there's nothing left here anymore, believe it or not, I've had several people tell me I should make a video here. So, here I am. And so now the challenge is, how can I make an interesting video about a place where there's nothing left? Well, that's what I came out here to do. Now, this is one of those places that I've known about ever since I moved out here, but I just never really thought it was interesting enough to make a video about. But then I guess this other YouTube channel came out here recently and shot a video, and people apparently found it interesting enough to where I got emails asking me to come out here and shoot something. And so I watched the other guy's video, and he did a good job, but he didn't really find out anything about the history of Evelyn. So the mystery remains. Okay, if you've ever driven down Highway 127 from Death Valley to Baker, well, you've probably noticed Evelyn. It kind of stands out for two things. One, it has a tree, which is like the only tree in 100 miles. I mean, look at this landscape around us. Do you see any other trees? And then there's also the fact that there's this weird paved circle at the side of the highway. I mean, what is this? Does it date from the days when Evelyn was an actual town? Or was it paved more recently? Well, if you look on Google Maps, Evelyn is actually on the other side of the highway, where the old T&T railroad tracks used to run. That's right, the T&T Railroad. The Tonopah and Tidewater was a railroad that ran from Ludlow, California to Beatty, Nevada, which was built mainly to haul borax out of Death Valley. Remember the 20 mule teams that used to haul borax out of Death Valley using those giant wagons? Well, that was a really slow and cumbersome way to haul borax. So this guy, Frank Marion Smith, who was the president of Pacific Coast Borax, decided to build a railroad to haul it instead. The Tonopah and Tidewater Railroad got its name because it was supposed to go from Tonopah to San Diego. That's the Tidewater. But it never quite made it. If you've ever been to Ludlow, California, you know it's pretty dang far from any tidewaters. Anyway, the T&T Railroad only operated from 1907 until 1943, at which time the federal government pulled up the rails to use as part of the war effort. And then the Pacific Coast Borax Company went out of business a few years later. Look, these old timbers are pretty much all that's left of the old, I guess, railroad siding that was here in Evelyn, which apparently really was just a little tiny whistle stop. I mean, I guess there was a mine somewhere in those mountains over there called the Baxter Mine. And so they would load ore. I'm not sure what kind of ore, what they were mining in Baxter. It might have been borax. But they would load that up. And then I guess there was like a bunkhouse. And then there was a shack for the station master. And that was it. So it wasn't really a town. It wasn't anything more than a lonely railroad siding in the absolute middle of nowhere. So why was it called Evelyn? Well, apparently it was named after Frank Marion Smith's second wife, Evelyn. And at first, when I was reading up on this, I thought, oh, what a classic, dirty, old, Gilded Age, barren perv. I mean, Frank Smith was 31 years older than Evelyn, and my thought was, okay, isn't that always the way? Some rich old guy marries a young gal. Well, no, apparently there was actually more to the story. Apparently, Frank's first wife was this woman, Mary, and they were married for 30 years, and I guess had a great happy marriage. although they were never able to, or maybe just didn't want to, have children. But Mary, his first wife, became interested in orphans. She started taking in young female orphans and I guess kind of ran almost like a little orphanage in Oakland, California, where they moved because they didn't want to live out in the middle of nowhere, I guess by the borax mines. Anyway, one of the girls they took in was this young British-born girl named Evelyn Ellis. And she wasn't an orphan, but I guess Mary just kind of took her in under her wing, and eventually Evelyn became the governess to all the other orphan girls, like the nanny, basically. And then she was also Mary's personal secretary and her financial manager, I think. Okay, so Evelyn was basically the nanny. That makes this all even grosser, right? Wrong again. Apparently, Mary obviously really liked Evelyn. She made her personal secretary. Well, I guess Mary told one of her friends once, "If I should ever die before Frank, I know he would want to remarry. And if he does remarry, I hope it's to Evelyn Ellis." And then guess what? A year later, she did die. Mysteriously, you might say. Now, she died of a stroke at age 59. And so guess what? Frank did end up remarrying, and he married Evelyn Ellis, the former governess and Mary's former personal assistant. And then I guess he named this godforsaken desert railroad siding after her as a gesture of love. Talk about true romance. Anyway, that's why this place is called Evelyn and is still called Evelyn to this day, even though there's nothing left here other than this busted old railroad siding. I mean, that is literally all that's left here. I guess after they tore up the railroad, which you can still see, the old railroad grade running through the desert, I guess all the way up north to, well, not Tonopah. It never did make it all the way to Tonopah. I think it eventually made it all the way to Goldfield, and you could probably still follow the old railroad grade the whole way to Goldfield. But there's nothing left of the little town of Evelyn. I guess after they tore up the railroad tracks, there was no reason for anyone to be out here anymore. And so the whole settlement was basically abandoned and sort of vanished into the desert. I mean, there is nothing here, no foundations, nothing but these old timbers here. I mean, I guess that's because, like I said, we are in the middle of the desert. There's not exactly a lot of trees around here to build houses out of. And so this place was hastily assembled out of wood that they must have trucked in from somewhere else. Well, that wood was valuable. And so scavengers from all these other outlying desert communities came in and harvested whatever they could. Wood is almost as valuable as gold or even borax in these parts. So there's no sense in letting a bunch of old buildings just sit around baking and weathering in the desert sun. And that's why there's nothing left here anymore except this mysterious asphalt circle. What's that all about? Well, thanks to reading the comments on the other YouTube channel's video about this place, apparently this circle was created by Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation, to mix asphalt for patching potholes in Highway 127. Okay, I guess the way they have to mix the asphalt somehow requires that this truck drive around, and I guess it's easier to do it in a circle rather than having to turn it around. So they paved this mysterious circle in the desert to mix asphalt. Not super exciting, but kind of interesting. And then I guess another guy in the comments said he grew up in the area, and he said the local kids used to come out here and drive around it and see how fast they could go, which I thought that was kind of an interesting story because, what else are these local Death Valley high schoolers supposed to do on a Friday night? Which, by the way, there really is a Death Valley high school just down the road there in Shoshone. How about that? Their mascot is the Scorpions. But anyway, all of this definitely gives me a new perspective on what I thought was just a lonely tree and a weird, mysterious circle in the middle of nowhere. But I'll bet you we could find out even more information about Evelyn. My sister works at the museum in Shoshone. In fact, she's in charge of cataloging all the research materials. So I'll bet you anything, if we go over there, she can dig up some more dirt for us.
Hello, welcome to.
Hi, John.
Hi, welcome to the Shoshone Museum. How are you?
I'm good. I'm making a video about Evelyn. Do
Right
you know anything about Evelyn?
What's to know? There's nothing out there. No, I don't know. It's on the way to Ash Meadows, and I know there's a tree, so that's how you know where Evelyn is.
Man, you work at the museum. You're supposed to know about everything.
I should know about Evelyn, but there's not much to know. I hopefully we can find something in the archive.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back in the back where my sister is, if that's okay.
Yeah.
See if she can turn anything up.
Have her sleuth it.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Hey, sis.
Hey, sis.
Do you, I'm working on a video about Evelyn. Do you guys happen to have any information about Evelyn?
Evelyn, you mean the railroad stop?
Yeah, you know where that lone tree is and then that weird asphalt circle? Well, apparently
sure.
there was like a railroad sighting there.
Okay.
I mean, I know you guys have a lot of files here and a lot of books. Do you have any information that can help us get more information about this mysterious settlement?
We do. In fact, let's see what we have on our shelf.
Surprisingly, for a little tiny museum, they have a lot of resources in Shoshone. From old books, magazines, and documentaries to the complete collection of the old Death Valley Days TV show. And my sister has been working at the museum long enough to know exactly where to look to find the information I was looking for.
Oh, here's some stuff on the Baxter mine.
Oh, really? What were they mining? Oh, copper. Oh, wow, yeah, you guys do have an excellent library here at the Shoshone Museum. Oh, what's that?
So I would start with this one because this is
book about
all on the
Tonopah
TNT.
Tidewater Railroad, perfect.
Right. Let's check the index.
E for Evelyn.
Yep. There we go. We've got a few. So we'll take this one.
In fact, I think I have that book at home. I probably should have looked at that before I came out here.
Railroads of Nevada.
Oh, Railroads of Nevada. I think I have that book
And Eastern
too.
California.
Oh,
so this
great.
is a good start. Let's start there and see what we can dig up.
I knew my sis would be just the person to ask about this.
So here's the timetable.
Timetable of what?
Of the TNT and all the stops, and it shows you what was at each of the stations. So you can see here at Evelyn, no water, no fuel, basically not anything.
Yeah. Come on, dig up the dirt. I bet you anything something juicy happened in Evelyn.
Okay, so here's just a quick overview about Evelyn.
Okay.
And then here's a little story. I'll let you read through that.
Oh, wow, yeah, it looks like there is some information in here. And it is kind of juicy. Okay, I guess they interviewed this guy, George Ross, who used to live here in Shoshone, and he said that when they were tearing up the railroad tracks, there was a crew of scrapping laborers who were black and Mexican. Now, there's going to be some language in what I'm about to read, but it's just the way people spoke at the time, so please don't think any less of me. I'm just reading out of this book. Anyway, it says the job was physical and repetitive, and time off the clock with money in the pocket begged for the opportunity to go awry. So apparently, this guy recalls one incident following a payday at Evelyn where a mass exodus was expected into Shoshone. Okay, this was like the big town, believe it or not, back in the day. I guess this is where these scrapper guys would have gone after payday to go, gambling and drinking and who knows what else. But on this particular payday, it says there was a disturbance reported that night, but it occurred back at the Evelyn camp. About 5:30 p.m. on September 22nd, was my birthday, a big Packard with 3 colored whore ladies arrived and quartered themselves in the section foreman's house at Evelyn. Ooh! Okay, again, remember I said there was going to be some colorful language in this book, but that's just the way people talked back then. So anyway, it says apparently later that night, a fight broke out between a black and Mexican worker. The latter was severely injured and was taken by friends to Death Valley Junction, where the incident was reported to W.H. Brown, the acting constable. Details of the outcome are unknown, but shortly after, about 16 workers quit the job. Oh, some brawl. It is of interest to note that the section house mentioned at Evelyn is possibly the same building standing today at the southern end of Shoshone. Hey, do you know if that old section foreman's house is still here in town?
Well, we have just the thing, actually.
What?
We have a Shoshone walking tour map.
Oh,
It tells you about all the buildings in town.
Oh, so it's probably listed on that. I can't believe I've never taken the Shoshone walking tour. How fun is that? Okay, so where's
Yeah.
this
So
section?
here's the map. Here's the list. And
Section foreman.
station house.
Oh, the station house. Look at that! The Tonopah Tidewater Railroad had crews stationed every 20 miles or so to maintain the track. This building was originally in Evelyn, where it served as the crew's office and residence. It was moved here in the 1940s and currently serves as a studio. Okay, so number 7, I just need to walk.
So that would be, well, there's the turnoff.
Okay.
So
Oh,
that's
it's
number 7. It's the first
on
building
corner.
in town, right across from Dublin Gulch.
Okay, wow, let's go find this. What was it called? The station foreman or the section foreman? Yeah, the section house. This is where those colored whores set up shop. And to think that the building is still right here in Shoshone all these years later. Goes back to what I was saying. They don't waste a building out here in the desert.
Well, apparently that house was ordered from the Sears Roebuck catalog.
Which house?
The greenhouse there.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
So my sister just said the house next door to the museum over there was ordered from the Sears Roebuck catalog. Hey, isn't the Shoshone Museum building itself was in Greenwater or something?
It was in Greenwater and then in Zabriskie.
Oh, so this building has been moved around a few times. Wow, it's amazing it's still standing. Okay, wow, so according to that walking tour map, this section house is the first building when you come into town. Wow, there's nothing that gets my blood pumping like a history mystery. Oh, and how lucky am I that my sister just happens to work in the museum and can help us figure all this out. Okay, so this is the section house. Oh my gosh, how funny. And do you know what this building is being used for today?
As far as I know, it's an office.
Wow, it's in really good shape.
Yeah, they did a beautiful job renovating it.
Boy, they sure did. Wow, how cool is that? To think that these colored whores set up shop in this building when it was located 13 miles north of here in Evelyn. Wow, how about that? I feel like I learned a lesson in making this video about Evelyn, and that is sometimes the places that look the least interesting turn out to be the most interesting of all. And this little museum in Shoshone is a gold mine. So if you're like me, nosy, or just curious about anything that happens out here in the desert outside Death Valley, that place is a great resource, and the people who work in there are happy to help you figure stuff out. Well, while I'm in town here, I happen to notice that the world famous Crowbar has reopened. That's right, the Crowbar was closed for renovations for something like 6 months, but it's finally open now, and I feel like the perfect way to celebrate cracking the mystery of Evelyn would be by cracking a cold one in the Crowbar. So I'm gonna go in there and have a drink, but I sure hope you enjoyed exploring the history of Evelyn with me. See you on the next adventure.